So far, I've been focusing on this idea of being a genuine member of the moral community. What does it take to be a genuine member of the moral community? I said that being a genuine member of the moral community was important because members generally deserve some kind of protection. You may think of negative rights here, right? That members of the moral community deserve protection from interference, from outside interference. At a base level, members deserve not to be harmed or killed. Um, Another useful way of framing this idea is to refer to what's called direct moral standing, and we will contrast that with indirect moral standing. To possess direct moral standing is to inherently possess the significant moral traits that give one moral value or moral worth. Or you might say that gives one rights, such as a right to life. So, in other words, to have direct moral standing is to possess some kind of characteristics within the boundaries of your own skin, so to speak, right? Within yourself, you have something that merits or warrants or deserves moral consideration, moral standing, membership in the moral community. That is to possess direct moral standing. Um, Presumably, the vast majority of adult human beings have direct moral standing. Okay. What are the traits, those significant moral traits that warrant direct moral standing? Well, there are competing views, right? And each of our moral theories will essentially provide a different answer to what it takes to possess direct moral standing. Kantian moral theory might say dignity. Utilitarianism might say sentience, okay, just for example. Um, Indirect moral standing, in contrast, is not to possess morally significant traits within oneself, but rather to merely be related or connected to something that has direct moral standing. So the silly and basic but hopefully clear example that I use is this one. Um, as an adult human being, or as a sentient being, or as a being with dignity, pick one of those. I, Sean Brady, have direct moral standing. Okay, I am a member in the moral community, and I warrant moral consideration. I deserve moral consideration. We might even say I have rights since I have direct moral standing. Okay. Now imagine right here I have a boombox, right? A really fancy radio. Okay, that's my radio. If I put my radio down on the ground, you're not allowed to just come and kick it, right? And step on it and destroy it. Now, is that because my radio has direct moral standing? Does my boombox have rights? I don't think so. That doesn't really make sense. But my radio does have indirect moral standing because it's related to me. It's mine. That's my radio. That's my property. Okay? And so it would be wrong to destroy my radio because it's the possession of a being that has direct moral standing. So there's an example that hopefully differentiates between direct and indirect moral standing. Now, I think that this concept of direct moral standing is useful because each of our authors this week will essentially answer the question of whether a fetus has direct moral standing differently. That is to say, Marianne Warren is going to argue that a human fetus does not have direct moral standing. Within the boundaries of its own skin, a fetus does not possess the morally significant traits that would grant it membership in the moral community. And she will specify exactly what she thinks those traits are. In contrast, Don Marquis, or Don Marcus, essentially argues that fetuses do have direct moral standing. They do have, a fetus does have what it takes to be a member in the moral community, to possess basic rights. And again, he will specify exactly what that morally significant trait is. So obviously the accounts of direct moral standing between Warren and Marquis are conflicting. They are opposing and competing. And so it is our job to essentially determine which of these accounts of direct moral standing is correct, or at least which is better, which is the stronger account. So let's do that. Let's get into examining each of these authors' arguments, and we will start with the argument made by Maria Ann Warren.